Hello and namaste viewers. Welcome back to Alpa Active Learning. Standard 8 Science Inside the Atom Part 2. If you have not seen my first video, please see this video. In the first video, Part 1, we have studied that the smallest part of every matter is atom. But this atom is indestructible, means indivisible. We have also seen the evolution in atomic theory from Dalton to J.J. Thomson and Rutherford. And then it was the Bohr who have given us an atomic structure. From there, we learn that every atom has a nucleus which has positive proton, neutral neutron and the electrons revolving around it. This number of protons and number of electrons are also same. So this is what children we have learned in part 1. We also know that every element has atomic mass number and atomic number. Conventionally we write an element having its name, it's from Latin, right? And A is atomic mass number, Z atomic number. Remember, every element has atomic mass number and atomic number. Again, atomic number is number of protons or number of electrons. Atomic mass number is total number of proton as well as neutron. So we can find out neutron by subtracting A minus Z. Okay. One more thing children, the mass of an electron being negligibly very small, therefore the mass of an atom is mainly due to the protons and neutrons in its nucleus. Let's take an example of helium atom. He24, 2 atomic number, so number of electrons are 2, protons are also 2. Now how many neutrons? So mass number is 4, 4 minus 2, that is 2 is neutron. So helium has 2 electron, 2 proton and 2 neutrons. Now how these electrons are distributed in the various shells? Bohr and Burgess suggested the distribution of electrons into different orbit of an atom. According to Bohr, electrons revolve in stable shells and these shells have a definite energy. Now he has given one formula on the basis of which we come to know how many number of electrons are there. So the formula is 2n square. If I take n is equal to 1, if I substitute I will get 2. So 2 electrons will be in the first shell. Now this is the shell which is nearest to the nucleus. Is called first shell and then second, then third and fourth. Similarly for n is equal to 2, 2 4s are 8. So second shell has 8 electrons and then n is equal to 3, 18 and so on. So remember children, these shells have given a name. They are referred to as K, L, M and N. So the first shell is known as K with 2 electrons. Second, L having the second energy shell of 8 electrons. Third energy shell, that is denoted by letter M, and it has 18 electrons, and that of the N1. So this fourth energy shells and more. Remember, the energy increases with the magnitude of N increases. So each of these shell, the maximum number of the electrons a shell can contain is same as that of the formula 2n squared. This may not be in your 8th standard children, but remember, if shell is K, it also has subshell where 2 electrons are there. Then in L shell again the electrons are further kept in subshells S and P that is 2 plus 6, 8. In M, again there are 2, 6 and 10, so 18 electrons. And in N and in O, so this way the electrons are distributed in the shell. Let us take few examples. Carbon atom. Carbon, we use symbol C here. Carbon C6, 12. So 6 is atomic number 6, proton 6, electron 6. So naturally, first shell have 2 electrons, the remaining has 4 electrons. Second shell has 4 electrons. You can also find out neutron, children. 12 minus 6 is 6. Now, let's take oxygen. O stands for oxygen. O8, number of electrons are 8. Now, so first shell 2 and the second shell will have 6 electrons in the orbit. So, K shell 2 electrons, L shell 6 electrons, and 16 minus 8 is 8. So, 8 is number of neutrons. Let's go ahead. Chlorine. Chlorine, Cl stands for chlorine. Cl 17, 35. So 17 electrons, children. First orbit you can see 2 electron. Second has a maximum capacity of 8. So 2 plus 8, 10. So the third orbit has 7 electrons. Now coming to argon, Ar 1840. 18 electrons. So now as you can see, 2 electrons first shell, 8 electrons in the second, and in the third orbit there are 8 electrons. Again 40 minus 18 will be 22. So I can say there are 18 proton, 22 neutron and 18 electron. Distribution of electron is very important. Because of this we know the electronic configuration of elements. So what is electronic configurations? The electrons in an atom are distributed in the shells according to their maximum capacity. K is 2, L is 8, M is 18, N is 32. This shell-wise distribution of the electron in an atom of an element is called electronic configuration of that element. This we write in numerical form and the numbers are separated by means of comma. Let's take an example. Potassium 1939. So atomic number 19, atomic mass number 39. Let's see. In the first shell it will has 2 electron. The second will be have 8. The third will be also has 8 electrons. The octet is completed and the remaining has 1 electron. So how we'll write the configuration? We write 2, 8, 8, 1. This is the way the electronic configuration is written. Now you also remember the first cell, if the capacity is 2. So we say the duplet is completed. The first shell should have maximum of 2 electron. That means the duplet is completed. And when the second shell is 8 electrons, when in the orbit is 8 electrons, we say an octet is completed. So duplet and octet, duplet means 2 electrons, octet means 8 electrons. Now from this electronic configuration, children, we know a very important concept of valency. Now what is valency of an element then? Valency is nothing but combining capacity of the elements to form compounds. Now in our day-to-day life, you have heard about many compounds, from the urea to sodium bicarbonate, caustic soda, your detergent, your soap. All these are the compounds. They are formed with the combination of the elements. Even your water, H2O, is made up of combination of hydrogen and oxygen. Salt, sodium chloride. It is the combination of sodium and chlorine. So the question is how these elements are combining. How we determine, who determined its combining capacity? So children, the valency of an element or the combining capacity is directly related to how many electrons are in the outermost shell or outermost orbit. Now, as we all know, K shell has capacity 2 electron, L must have 8 here. Okay, M is 18 and again here also 18 means 2, 8 and 8. So last orbit should have your octet completed. Now let us take an example of hydrogen. Hydrogen has only one electron. Now we know the first energy shell is a duplet, means they must have 2 electrons. But hydrogen is 1. So this hydrogen, to complete the duplet, can combine with one more electron. So the combining capacity is 1. So the valency of hydrogen is 1. Now let's see an example of helium. Helium has 2 electrons in the outermost orbit, that is K shell. So it's a stable element. It doesn't react with any other elements. Whereas fluorine, if we take, there are 9 electrons as atomic number is 9. So first K shell 2 electrons, then there comes 7 electrons. So the number of valence electrons here are 7. We go further. Sodium. Now sodium has 11 electrons because atomic number is 11. So 2, 8 and 1. Now what happened? In the third orbit, where there should octet be completed, but it is only 1 electron is left. So if 1 electron is left in the outermost orbit, we say here the valency of sodium is 1. Now in case of magnesium, again 12. So here 2, 8 and 2. So 2 valence electrons are left. So combining capacity is 2. So valency of magnesium is 2. Now that means valency means the number of chemicals bonds all formed by an atom. Now how? For example, sodium. It has 11 electron and that's why sodium, if you see the configuration 2, 8 and 1. It is very easy for sodium to lose 1 electron. When 1 electron is lost, naturally 1 negative charge is less. So here sodium become positive ion. Chlorine has 17 electrons, so 2, 8 and 7, right? So for chlorine to accept 1 electron is more easy. So when the electron is accepted by chlorine, the negative charge will increase and chlorine become chlorine ion. Now sodium loses electron, becomes positive ion. In case of inert gases, duplet and octet is completed. These gases do not have a combining capacity. Their valency is 0 and that's why they are known as inert gases or noble gases. They do not form any combination. Let's take few more examples. Lithium 2 and 1. So outermost orbit electron is 1. Calcium 282. So valence electron 2. Aluminium 283. Valence electron 3. Valency 3. Carbon 4. 2, 4. So the 4 electrons. Now in case of nitrogen 2 and 5. Outermost orbit it is 5 electron. Sulfur 2, 8 and 6. Valence electron are 6. Chlorine 2, 8, 7. Valence electrons are 7. And neon, here you can see valence electrons are 8, but it's a balanced one, so it never combined. Concept isotopes. Now what is isotopes? Atoms of the same element having different atomic mass number are called isotopes. Now there are certain elements which exist in 2 or 3 different forms. For example, carbon. Carbon 12, carbon 13 and carbon 14. Here children, number of proton and that of electron remain the same. But carbon 12 is 6 neutron, carbon 13 is 7 neutron and carbon 14 is 8 neutrons. So this type of forms are known as isotopes. They differ in only neutron number, so the chemical and the physical properties remain the same because number of protons and electrons are same. Look at the isotopes of hydrogen. Hydrogen exists in three different forms: protium, deuterium and tritium. This deuterium is formed when it is combined with oxygen, children. It is known as heavy water. The same way chlorine exists in two isotopic form, chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. Here you can see 17 electrons, 17 protons, but number of neutrons vary. So these neutrons actually binds with protons with the nucleus forces and they stabilize the nucleus. Now, as I said, what is heavy water? So, do we think that the heavy water and normal water are same? No, children. All water is not equal. So, what is heavy water then? It is the water that contains heavy hydrogen as deuterium. Now see, hydrogen has 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen, H2O. Heavy water has the formula D2O. Now, where we find this? This we found naturally in lake water. Canada has the highest source of resources of heavy water. And children, you can drink this heavy water. Only thing is sometimes you feel dizziness, otherwise it is heavy in terms of solution. The scientific name of heavy water is deuterium oxide. So where do we use then? Heavy water is used in nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. It is used as a moderator in certain type of nuclear reactor. It is also used in the medical field to test the metabolic rate of human being. So this heavy water is very helpful for the scientific research purpose and in the medicine. Now, uses of isotopes. The first is uranium-235. Uranium-235 is used for nuclear fission and production of electricity. You can see this uranium-235 here. Nuclear power plant as a fuel. And this is the picture of atomic reactor, nuclear reactor. Because of the energy produced by this fission, we can produce more and more electricity. Second is cobalt-60. The radioactive isotope cobalt-60 is used in medical treatment of fatal disease like cancer. And you might have heard many times radiotherapy or the light is given. So here we are using these isotopes. Same way, iodine-131 is used in the treatment of goiter, the disease of thyroid gland. We know that because of the deficiency of iodine, people are suffering from the goiter. Same way, sodium isotopes are used for detection of crack in the underground pipe. We know that we have many pipelines which are supplying either the water or in case of the refinery they are supplying the petroleum, diesel and everything. And we know that there are pipelines which are passing through the sea also. So here to detect whether any leakage or not, because atmospheric effect is going to happen on these pipes, and many times because of leakage there is a lots of loss. So the radioactive isotope is injected in the pipe and outside of the pipe is checked with GM detector known as Geiger-Müller detector to find the area of high radioactivity. These are the point where the pipe is leaking, you can see here, and thus it is useful for underground pipe that are hard to get near. The isotope must have a short half-life so the material does not become a long-term problem. So that is the care that they are taking. So basically by adding the small amount of sodium to the fluid, leak is then detected above the ground and with the help of high power beta radiations. The radioactive isotope C14 is used for determining the age of archaeological object. Children, you have heard the word carbon dating. Now many a times you might have seen the discovery, or you have heard that the dinosaurs were of this many years ago. So the question arises that how they know the perfect or the correct age of anything, of the skeleton. Or while doing the archaeological excavation, you find out many things, and then we want to know that this particular things belongs to which era. At that time, radiocarbon 14 is used. Now why radiocarbon 14 is used? First of all the living things absorb carbon, right? Now this C14 carbon, it starts to decay after the death at constant rate. So whether any plant or any animal died, the carbon in that, it start decaying. So the radioactive emission of carbon can be measured. So the time of death can be deduced, and thus we come to know anything by C14 dates, organic material between 400 years ago to 5000 years ago can be known. In the last, radioactive isotopes are used for the food preservation from the microbes. You all know how the fruits and the vegetables and the other things are preserved. So food is exposed to gamma rays. This kills all the bacteria and microbes, and the food stays fresher for longer because there are less bacteria. Now coming to nuclear reactor. Now what is nuclear reactor? The nuclear reactor is the machine that generates electricity on large scale by using the atomic energy. You can see here in Mumbai we have Bhabha Atomic Research Center. From the outer side and from the inner side, this is the structure. Now what happened in the reactor? In this reactor we are taking uranium-235 as a nuclear fuel, and the neutrons are bombarded on this. They are the slow speed. Because of this bombardment, the nuclear fission takes place, the split takes place. Uranium is splitted into two lighter elements, krypton and barium. Krypton 92, barium 141. And again, this neutron further attack on this, and even lighter elements are generated. And every time the energy is released. The chain reaction is kept much in control to prevent the probable explosion. But during this process, it is very important to decrease the speed of the neutron and the number of the neutron. So if we see here, a fission event usually produces more than one neutron. So every time more and more neutrons are produced. So fast neutrons won't efficiently cause fission. We need a slow nation. So we must slow down the speed of this neutron. And for this, in the nuclear, the moderator and the controller are used. Let's see how it. Moderator's work is that this moderator reduces the speed of neutron, and for that we are using graphite or heavy water. You can see here these rods are there to slow down the neutrons from the high velocity, from high speed and hence high energy level, which they have on being released from fission process. We are using this graphite rods, heavy water also, and beryllium is also used. Now because of this fusion, whenever the heat produced is taken out by using the water as coolant. Now what is controller here? To reduce the number of neutrons, as I said, moderator helps to slow down the speed. Controller are there to reduce the number of neutrons. So we are using boron, cadmium and beryllium rods are used so that the number of the neutrons are also under the control. So now in this way, the heat is produced, which is taken out by using the water as coolant. Water is transformed into the steam by means of this steam. Turbines are driven and electricity is generated. You know that India has a very large reservoir of thorium, and the thorium also can be used as a nuclear fuel. So Asia's first nuclear reactor was operated in August 4, 1956. It was conceptualized by Dr. Homi Jahangir Bhabha. In 1955, he built with assistance from the UK at Trombay. This played a very key role in various programs with applications in power, agriculture and health. Now we all know that how much electricity is important for any nations to strong, self-reliant and powerful. This first reactor of India is named as Apsara. And children, total 22 nuclear reactors are functioning at 8 places. We should be really proud of us that today we become very much self-reliant in nuclear research program, and because of this I think India's almost all the villages are electrified. The electricity is reaching to every nook and corner of our country. So we are very much thankful to Dr. Homi Bhabha because of his efforts and the other scientists who worked after him to who contributed to this nuclear program. Thank you very much children. I hope you have enjoyed this video and do like, subscribe my channel. Thank you.